Hey folks, welcome back to one of the most enthralling, exciting, enlightening and entertaining session of Science Scamper for classes 6 to 8 by Educatip, and I am your super science teacher Ambika. At Educatip, we always ensure to empower all our students as how to think and not what to think. So if you want to experience the same, it's the right time to subscribe to the Educatip's YouTube channel. The subscription button is just given below, guys. If you like our video, don't forget to press the like button and ensure to hit the bell icon to get all the latest updates from Educatip. Now without any further delay, let's start today's session. And the topic for the day is materials, metals and non-metals. Yes, we are going to discuss about metals and non-metals in this chapter, their properties, their characteristics, usage, everything. So now let's see that what are the topics for this module. Metals and non-metals, the introduction, then physical properties of metals and non-metals, chemical properties of metals and non-metals, displacement reaction, and last but not the least, uses of metals and non-metals. So now let's start today's session with the first topic. Now, metals and non-metals. So what do we mean by metals and non-metals? Metals are those elements which readily lose electrons to form positive ions called cations. Now, for example, if I talk about iron. Iron is a metal, its chemical formula is Fe. Now, this Fe loses readily, it can lose 2 electrons and it forms Fe2 positive ion. Now, as this ion has a positive charge, then it is known as cation. So, metals are basically those elements which lose electrons to form positive ions, and these positive ions are known as cations. Now, non-metals are those elements which readily accepts electrons and form negative ions called anions. Example can be, say, sulphur, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. For example, oxygen. The chemical formula is capital O. Now it accepts 2 electrons and forms O2 negative ion, which is an anion. Okay? So that is clear. Now we also need to understand that what are noble metals. Noble metals are those metals which rarely or which almost do not, react with other elements. They never react with other elements. You can say that. Those metals which never react with other elements are known as noble metals. Example, gold, silver, platinum. They never react. For example, I am wearing gold earrings in my ear and a gold ring. So does it react with water and air? No, it doesn't. So these are noble metals. Now let's move ahead. Physical properties of metals. Now there are some metals which show different physical properties, others show different physical properties. But what are the physical parameters on which we need to understand about metals? The first is physical state. Generally, metals are solid at room temperature, at normal temperature, except for mercury, which is a liquid metal and it is used in thermometers. That is the reason why it is used. Then hardness and tensile strength. Tensile strength means the ability to wear and tear. So generally metals are very hard and they have high tensile strength. They are very strong. They do not wear and tear easily. Sodium and potassium are the only 2 metals which are soft in nature. If we talk about melting and boiling points, then metals have high melting and boiling points except for sodium and potassium, which have low melting and boiling point. If we talk about malleability, most metals are malleable except for zinc, and if we talk about ductility, most metals are ductile except for zinc. Now we need to understand what do we mean by malleability and ductility. The property to be beaten into thin sheets, यानी कि पतली पतली sheets में convert कर देना, that is known as a malleability, and to draw into thin wires is known as ductility. Now let's move ahead. Now physical properties of you can say metals. some other physical properties which we need to discuss. Conductivity. So most metals are good conductors of heat and electricity except for mercury and tungsten because they are poor conductors. If we talk about density, so most metals have high density except for sodium and potassium. Again, they have low density. If we talk about luster, that means the shine. So all metals almost have brilliant shine. In fact, sodium, potassium, every metal has a brilliant shine. They are lustrous in nature. There is no metal which is dull. Sonority, that means the ability to produce sound. So yes, metals are sonorous except for mercury, which is not a sonorous metal. Let's move ahead. Now, action-packed info, guys, something very interesting for you. 1 gram of gold can be beaten to draw a 2 to 3 kilometer long wire. Just imagine, just 1 gram of gold can be converted to 2 to 3 kilometers long wire. Tungsten is used in filament of electric bulb as it has high melting point. High melting point means it will not melt easily on a high temperature also. Let's move ahead. Now, physical properties of non-metals. Physical state, they can exist either in solid or gaseous state. Bromine is the only liquid non-metal. Then if we talk about density, they generally have lower density except for diamond, which has a very high density, just like aluminium, which is a metal. If we talk about malleability and ductility, so they are neither malleable nor ductile but brittle in nature. Brittle means they can be easily broken. If we talk about thermal and electrical conductivity, poor conductors of heat and electricity except for graphite, which is a good conductor. Then if we talk about luster, that means shine, they do not have any luster or shine. Iodine crystals are the only exceptions which are shiny in surface. If we talk about hardness, they are not very hard, they are actually soft. Diamond is the only, you can say, non-metal which is extremely hard. It is a form of carbon. Now, chemical properties of metals. Reaction with oxygen. Now, oxygen is a non-metal. So, how a metal reacts with an oxygen? So, it forms metal oxide. Okay. So, how it forms metal oxide? So, whatever metal, oxygen, metal oxide is formed. Example, iron reacts with oxygen, iron oxide is formed. Now, this iron oxide is actually rust. You know that if iron is left open in air, it shows corroding, it shows rusting, उस पे जंग लग जाती है, वो यही होता है. All right. Now let's move ahead. Now, chemical properties of non-metals. When sulfur dioxide is dissolved in water, sulphurous acid is formed. The reaction can be given as follows. Sulfur dioxide plus water forms sulphurous acid. The sulphurous acid turns blue litmus paper red. Generally, oxides of non-metals are acidic in nature. Very important to remember. Oxides of non-metals are acidic in nature. All right. Now, let's move ahead. Reaction with water. Now, sodium metal is very reactive and it reacts vigorously with oxygen and water. A lot of heat is generated in the reaction and it is therefore stored in kerosene. Even in the chemistry laboratories in schools, sodium is always stored in a kerosene bottle. Iron reacts with water slowly, but it reacts. Now, generally non-metals do not react with water. For example, phosphorus is a very reactive non-metal. It catches fire if exposed to air. To prevent the contact of phosphorus with atmospheric oxygen, it is stored in water. So, this shows you what? Phosphorus reacts very vigorously with oxygen, but it does not react with water. और इसीलिए उसको किस में स्टोर करके रखते हैं? वाटर में. वहीं पे सोडियम को आप कैरोसिन में स्टोर करके रख रहे हैं because sodium is a metal and it reacts with oxygen and water both. But phosphorus is a non-metal and it reacts only with oxygen, not with water. Okay, let's move ahead. Reactions with acids. Non-metals generally do not react with acids, but metals react with acids and produce hydrogen gas that burns with a pop-up sound. That means if you put a metal and acid together and you bring a matchstick near to the mouth of the test tube, it will burn with a pop-up sound. Woof. Action-packed info. Sodium hydroxide, also known as caustic soda. should be stored in a plastic container and not glass because it reacts with glass. That's a very important thing. Now, reactions with bases. Metals react with sodium hydroxide to produce hydrogen gas. Reactions of non-metals with bases are complex. That means they basically don't react. So, when a metal reacts with a base, it forms this metal salt plus hydrogen gas is eliminated out. Now, displacement reaction. As the name suggests, displacement means displacing something from one to the other. किसी एक में से किसी एक पार्ट को हटा के उसकी जगह पे दूसरा पार्ट आ जाए, that is known as displacement, and we are going to study that only in this thing. When a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal to form its salt is known as displacement reaction. For example, you can see on the screen, AB is one compound, XY is another. So A has displaced X and B has displaced Y. So the new compounds are AY and XB. Like over here, MgCl2 plus KOH. So Mg has displaced K. That means magnesium has displaced potassium because magnesium is more reactive than potassium and it has formed magnesium hydroxide and potassium chloride is formed out. Over here, HCl plus NaOH. So, sodium has displaced hydrogen and formed sodium chloride and water is eliminated out. So, a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal. So, जो ज़्यादा reactive metal होता है वो कम reactive metal को displace कर देता है और अपना salt solution बना लेता है. That is known as a displacement reaction. Let's move ahead. Now, uses of metals and non-metals, and first we are going to see uses of metals. Water boilers, making machinery, a lot of machinery in industries and factories, a lot of equipments are made up of metals. Making automobiles, all the vehicles which we are using from roadways to airways to waterways, all are made up of metals. Making aeroplane, making trains, making satellites, industrial gadgets, cooking utensils. So you can understand metals have a whole lot of usage in our life. They are used at multiple places, isn't it? Let's move ahead. Now, uses of non-metals. Oxygen is used in breathing, which is a non-metal. Fertilizers, nitrogen is a non-metal and it is used to make fertilizers. Water purification process, chlorine is used in water purification process. Purple colored antiseptic solution which is applied on wounds contains sulphur and phosphorus, which are again your non-metals. Used in crackers, of course, and crackers are used on festivals and functions, weddings. So we can understand that both metals and non-metals have a wide usage, have a wide application in our day-to-day life, isn't it? Yes. So with this, we have come to the end of this super amazing session, and I know, children, that you all have subscribed to the Educatives YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, it's the right time to do that. I hope you all have loved our video, so time to press the like button, and for your super science teacher Ambika, it's time to sign out for the day. But if you have any questions, queries, doubts, you can put them in the comment box below and your super science teacher Ambika will definitely get back to you ASAP. Till the time we meet again, be happy, be safe and keep enriching yourself with Educative. Bye-bye, children.